Shoshanah Shear of BeAHappyMom.com. And in today's video, I want to follow on from the previous video on the topic of speech and gossiping and being careful with our words, and how being careful with our words can help to improve our relationships. We're working with this book about gossiping, written by Bob Burg and Lori Palatnik. And after the last video that I put out, I had a question sent to me, somebody asking if I want to speak to a relative of mine or a friend of mine, and I want to say that so-and-so has gone on holiday, or so-and-so is going to a movie, out to a meal, to the opera, whatever it is that they're doing. I don't understand why that's hurting anybody. I'm just sharing some news. I'm just telling some information. How's that going to hurt anybody? Well, there's a short answer and there's a long answer. And I hope you bear with me as I try to explain a little bit. The question, to a certain extent, reminds me of a situation that's taught in the Gemara with the great sage Hillel. Hillel was very much a patient man, a man of peace, and a certain non-Jew came to Hillel and wanted to convert to Judaism, and asked Hillel if he would teach him the whole of Torah while he stood on one leg. So Hillel's response very cleverly was, all that is hateful unto you, or anything that would hurt another person, don't do unto others. Anything that would upset you, anything that would cause pain for you, don't go and do to anybody else. Hillel continued to say, the rest of it is all commentary. So let's join and study and learn together what the commentary is of everything that could be upsetting or hurtful to another person. In our situation, we're learning just a snippet of the Torah. It does follow on with the teachings of Hillel. We're starting off with the book written by Bob Burg and Lori Palatnik, all about gossiping. As Bob mentions in the introduction of this book, he got to know Rabbi Pliskin, who's also from Jerusalem, and Rabbi Pliskin has at least 2 books written on the importance of guarding one's tongue. The teachings and the writings about guarding one's tongue by Rabbi Pliskin all comes from the teachings of the Chofetz Chaim. And the Chofetz Chaim's work is all about a few topics which boil down to Avas Chesed, which is kindness to another person, and guarding one's tongue. And it comes down to a concept, if you want to boil it down to just a sentence or a few words, a concept that words do have power, and the words that we use, and the things that we say, and the topics that we talk about can either build a person up or break somebody down, destroy another person. How does that happen? Well, again, I refer back to a question or a teaching that we have, that we're supposed to we have 6 remembrances, 6 concepts or thoughts as a Jew that we're supposed to remember every single day. And one of those is to remember what happened to Miriam during the time that we as a Jewish nation were wandering through the desert. Miriam is the sister of Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe our teacher, and also the sister of Aaron. Now, Miriam, in this certain situation we're supposed to remember, Miriam had expressed concern about something happening with her brother Moshe to her brother Aaron. She thought that her comment had a beneficial purpose. She was concerned about something. She was speaking to her brother in private, in their own tent. Other people were not hearing about it, and yet Miriam was judged for that by God and was punished for that. And her punishment was leprosy, which in today's time doesn't exist to the extent that it did in the times that we wandered in the desert. And Miriam was separated from the rest of the camp for a period, I think it was 7 days, that she had to be isolated, and she had to go through a period of healing, of introspection, in order to heal from what she'd said about one brother to another brother. Now, if that is the extent of the punishment that can happen to Miriam, remember Miriam was a prophetess, and Miriam, it's thanks to Miriam that Moshe was born. We can get into that in another story. If you're interested in knowing, you can put a question in the comments below if you want a refresher as to the story about Aaron, Moshe, and Miriam, and I'll be happy to remind you. But every day we're supposed to remember what it is that happened to Miriam, and how it was that relaying something that she thought was of importance about one brother to another brother led to her being punished with leprosy. So our words do have power. There are ramifications, there are implications. How does it work? Well, I was discussing this whole concept with my husband this morning, and we were thinking about in life, the baby comes into the world, it's a blessing, it's a new life, and there's growth and development that takes place. Now, we see very easily with our eyes what kinds of progress takes place for the baby. The baby starts to learn to smile, it makes more contact with its parents, it's able to see, to recognize, to learn to move. There's growth in the body, there's development in learning. There are all sorts of things that take place as this baby progresses through life and gets to be a toddler, a small child, and grow up and become an adult. And then there's maturing that takes place. Now, concurrently with this physical growth that's taking place is spiritual growth that's happening. And we don't always see the spiritual growth that's taking place, but it is taking place. And we might get to come up against the extent to which we've grown and developed and worked on ourselves very often when we're in a difficult situation. But also, if you spend time sitting in any kind of an area that you're needing to wait, whether it's standing online or standing in a queue in a shopping center, whether it's waiting for a bus, whether it's waiting in a waiting room at a doctor's office, a dentist's office, a hospital, any of these kinds of situations where you're being tested as to what is your nature. Are you going to be patient? Are you going to be calm? How are you going to be able to act to another person? If somebody wants to ask you to move so that they can sit next to a relative of theirs and there's a chair and a few chairs away, are you going to get upset, or are you going to calmly get up and move and say, I'll be delighted to help you? What is your response going to be? If you're in a situation where you hear about somebody in need, are you going to start ridiculing and criticizing that person, or are you going to put some thought into what can you do to help the person? Every situation we come into and we come across and we experience puts us gives us the opportunity to show what our true colors are, to show what our true being is. Are we going to use words that are helpful, that are nurturing, that are kind and caring and uplifting and building another person? Or are we going to spend our time instead putting that person down? Whether it is that in putting down one person, it's because we know that person X has limited income and we know that they're not able to go away on holiday, so we're going to share with them thoughts about somebody else who went away on holiday. That's a very simple illustration, but it does show that in speaking about one person to another, you run the risk of hurting the person you're speaking to with your words and hurting the other. How does that work? Well, as I say, we're going to be working through in a lot more detail this book that Bob Burg and Laurie Palatnik have written together, all about gossiping. We're going to learn how it is that our words do matter, how it is that our words have an effect. It's all happening on a spiritual level, an energetic level. We might not see what's happening. Sometimes, of course, you do see, because sometimes the words that we say have a reaction, an immediate reaction to somebody. You can see it in their facial expression. You could see it in, sometimes a person will start to smile, to cry, to be angry. All sorts of different responses can take place. And it shows us and illustrates to us that our words do have an effect. So we're going to be working in a lot more detail through this book. I invite you to join me in this journey, because it is a journey and a process, and I'm learning and growing along with you. We all need a reminder on a day-to-day basis, and that is the reason as to why we have to remember what it is that happened to Miriam, who was, as I say, a prophetess, as the Torah teaches us. It's not that I say, it's the Torah that teaches us that Miriam was a prophetess, and yet even she had to be careful with her speech. So we all have to learn this lesson. Let's learn it together. Let's see what we can do to help to increase nurturing and kindness and peace and unity in this world, and to develop more powerful, more stronger, binding, improved relationships. And with our improved relationships, let us be able to go into, if you're following the secular calendar and you're working towards 2020, I always think about as being the number that is 2020 vision. Well, let's have 2020 vision in looking at our relationships and see what we can do together to be able to improve our relationships, starting off with how we think and how we speak, so that we can help to build up one another and to bring goodness into this world. So it's Shoshanah Shear with a thought about the fact that learning about this topic of guarding our tongue is a vast topic. It's something we have to work on every single day. And I hope that you will join me in learning more about this topic and to putting it into practice and seeing what we can do to improve our relationships. Thanks very much for joining me. And I look forward to sharing another thought with you. And if you have any questions or comments, do be in touch. You can be in touch with me via my website, or put a comment or a question in the comments below, and I'll be happy to either respond in the comments or to your email, or to share another video that I hope will help you in growing as you grow in your journey. And let it be not that we grow physically, that we mature and we grow, but let us grow spiritually too. Let us have working on our relationships as being important, that we can follow the words and the teachings of Hillel and be able to look at all the commentaries as to how we can be able to improve how we interact with our fellow human being. Thanks for watching, and do subscribe to the channel, sign up to this section, the series, or explore the other playlists, the other videos that I have on the go, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.